back, James. It's probably been, what, a couple of years since we did an interview before?
It's been a long while, Alex.
Before the so-called lockdown.
At least 18 months, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say, first of all, congratulations, because you now have your third book, actually, your second book with us, with Line of Intent.
Yeah.
And is that showing clearly? I hope so. This is
it is
James's new book, and it's Strength and Conditioning for the Internal Martial Artist. And it's a fantastic title. So I'm going to start with the big question, okay, that many people ask.
Yeah.
I know you put a lot of thought into this book because you studied sports science. You was in Hong Kong for 10 or 12 years, a long time, yeah. Studying full-time, each one. Aside with your day job, you were studying every day and practicing every day, and you've never stopped. The big question a lot of people ask, why are Chinese martial arts in decline? What is missing that has taken away the effectiveness that we have for, the old stories, the stories of the old masters? Incredible, right? And then we see our teachers have very, very good skill, great power, even good fighting skill. But why generally the standard or the level compared to, what we see modern martial arts, MMA, Taekwondo, Karate are so popular, but especially when we talk about Bagua, Tai Chi Bagua, let's say, why don't we see that same level? What is missing?
Yeah, I think you can throw everything else in there as well, and Xingyi and each one, and all the other bits and pieces as well. And it's the $1 million question, isn't it? Because as you've said, things like MMA, those types of competitions, UFC, they're constantly evolving and they're improving, and the standards are getting better and higher. And then you look at ordinary athletic events, Olympic Games, world records get broken every 4 years, or national competitions that get broken every year. So people are generally getting stronger, faster, more skilled as well in what they do. So the curve is like this, right, for everything else. But then you look at internal martial arts, and I think what we have here, it's a problem that goes a lot further back than the last few years, because what we're talking about now, Wang Shangjai talked about 100 years ago in the 1920s when he was being interviewed. He talked about the decline of Chinese martial arts and how he felt it was, and preoccupation with form, and people not actually having real skill, and the focus on each one as he developed it as a kind of a less is more system that was really hyper focused on developing that connection between the body and the mind, and that level of skill, which is not unique to each one, is should be in all of other internal martial arts. So this has been going on for a lot longer than you and I have been walking the earth, Alex. But certainly in the last, because of the progress of other things, I think it's looked a lot worse. And talking about all those kind of competitions and challenge matches in China and stuff like that, it's not good. And I think to answer the question, which would probably take about 2 hours. We don't have that level of time, and everyone would fall asleep listening to it anyway. But the answer is there's a variety of different reasons for it. And you said it, first of all, about the skill level of our masters and our grandmasters and our great grandmasters. You're right, and that level is there, and you can see it's almost like it's an old-fashioned dying art, like carpentry, which was maybe better in the past. Now people had those skills to be able to do it. Now they do things faster and use machines and things like that. And the problem is that we become very preoccupied about our masters and our grandmasters, and people a lot of the time talk about them as a reference to their own level and their own ability. And I always ask the question and compare to something like boxing and say, unless you're a real boxing fan, you would know this. I would say, well, who taught Muhammad Ali how to box? nobody, well, people who know boxing know. There's a couple of people who taught him, and we know, like, he had a great manager and coach in Angelo Dundee. Mike Tyson's an obvious one because people know Customato, and he got as famous, but most of it, Sugar Ray Robinson or a lot of the other great boxers, actually nobody cares. And there were some really amazing boxing coaches, but the point of the matter is, those individuals didn't reference their teacher as being the point that they were trying to aim towards. Every generation was trying to get better. So a teacher or a coach, that is really the philosophy that needs to be undertaken in Chinese martial arts today. That when you're working with individuals, groups of individuals, whether it's general population, athletes, kids, whatever, is to absolutely bring the best out in them, and look to be able to bring them in a position where they can exceed your own level as well. And I think a lot of people don't have that outlook. That's definitely one big problem. And then we can get into all sorts of different stuff about whether people have, how they train, whether they have contact, whether they do sparring or realistic type of exercises just for fighting. But your question wasn't really about that. It was more about, why is it not as good as what it was before?
And also,
I think the teaching methodology has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and your book addresses some of those points. Could you explain how and what exactly you put in there?
Yeah, and I'm sure as a long-standing teacher yourself, I'm sure you've been asked this question, and as you said in the beginning, I've got a background as a trainer that's as long as my martial arts career. For me, there've been two parallel roads that have intertwined and have helped each other. My career as a martial artist and my career as a physical trainer, and investing my time and my experience in training other people and learning new things, and undertaking qualifications and different things in that path as well. So the two paths for me, Lifeline, have been running alongside each other. And the question I always get asked, particularly from internal martial arts people who obviously, depending on definitions of internal martial arts, people always think, well, it's the soft arts. So it's about relaxation, it's about not using muscular tension and things like that. So I said, well, can I do physical training? Or how would I do physical training? Or the worst that you'll ever hear is people who just won't touch anything that's outside of their art, because they feel that it could detract from the level of skill. Whereas if we go back to what we were talking about from an athlete's perspective, they would look for any method that would progress them to be faster, stronger, more powerful, no matter what. It wouldn't just be undertaking the activity that they do. So we find that in martial arts, internal martial arts, there's a lot of great conditioned stuff that's already there. Different types of calisthenics, training with heavy weapons, all fantastic for whole body power. And of course, a lot of people undertaking that. And you take, Suk-Gar Chinese wrestling has a myriad of these different, I think this probably has the most sophisticated training methods actually for supplementary training per se. And then you have modern sports science that has developed outside of that. But the parallels between the two are really, really strong. And a lot of the times that within these modern scientific activities, people are doing very, very similar things, but they're just putting different names to them, calling them different names. So I wanted to write a book that would address this question from an internal martial artist perspective. Okay, hopefully it'll be of interest to other people as well, but specifically from an internal martial to think, okay, well, how would I start? What sort of thing could I do? Why would I want to do that? What benefits could I get out of it? Would it detract from my art? Would I ruin my internal connection? Would I tighten my body in the wrong way? So it was really to look at the different methods, the different ways that you could do that. And that was the purpose of the book.
I've noticed you put, you cover a very wide range of subjects. You've got Baduan Jin, which is a very, ancient internal training method. You've got circle walking, with the, mother palm postures, which is a kind of, I guess, static, isometric kind of training in one sense.
It is.
You've got a lot of heavy weapon training, Santi, which is an incredible standalone exercise, no pun intended, but it's
can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, you've got lots of squatting type things, little devices that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
That you've, I'm not sure you created them or you found them. You've got isometric work, which I know you told me before is a kind of lost science. And I remember when we were young, everyone was into these chest expanders, right?
Yeah.
But you said it goes back much, much further than that. It's
it does, and I mean, you know, isometry is it's used in many. It is becoming more and more fashionable now in sports science. Actually, there's people doing it, and in fact, one of the, you know, not fads but latest developments where you see a lot of research and a lot of elite level athletes doing is something called long duration isometrics, which is really interesting. So because that gets really close into the heart of internal martial arts, because when you isometry traditionally from a Western point of view was done for a very short period of time, 6 seconds or 10 seconds, something full tension, pushing against an object, using muscles and using tension to tighten everything together. We do a lot of that kind of stuff in Southern systems as well, but of course this is not the type of power we want to generate in internal martial arts. It's one type of power, and it's a good type of for internal martial arts. That's not really that useful. But we hold these isometric positions where you're storing a lot of kinetic elastic energy basically into the tendons of the body. So now I'm starting to see people from a sports science point of view undertaking similar types of training where they're holding positions for 5-10 minutes. Now, when you hold a position for that period of time, you know, classic one, kind of, you know, back to the wall and squatting down or a half push-up. What you can't do is tighten the body. So you have to basically relax into the posture while you hold it and expand. And now I'm starting to sound like I'm talking about Bagua or Yichuan or Shingi. Or
circle walking with mother palms.
Circle walking. Yeah, exactly. Or here, it's exactly the same thing, but they use different terminology. You know, so we would in internal martial arts we talk about storing and releasing of power. You know, they just use different words to do it, but it's the same springy, elastic power into the body that comes through very difficult, arduous, hard training that a lot of people don't have the mental capacity to do it. Never mind the physical capacity. But the benefits that come from that are immense. So that's something that I talk about a lot in the book. But as you mentioned, you know, I also show a lot of different ways that you can condition the body, and that's not to say that you should be doing all of those different ways from Baduan Jin to chest expanders that were invented, you know, 100 years. It doesn't mean you need to be doing all. It means there's something and everything, and it also means that there isn't one definite way of doing things. There's lots of different good things that you can do, and you know, athletes they have periodization, so they work through things through different periods of time. They don't just do one thing every day for 10 years. You may specialize in something and then go back and do another thing. It's not about trying to do lots and lots of different things. It's about, you know, doing a few things at one time and then rotation and then building in, and that keeps you fresh as well. And then when you go back to something later on, you find that you look at it differently and you get better benefits from it as well. So as you said, you know, we're talking about ballistic training with medicine balls to weapons to kettlebells. What you won't see inside the book is anything related to aesthetics or muscular growth or bodybuilding, because I think in the past a lot of people, and people are wiser to it now, but they always associated strength and conditioning with bodybuilding, with, you know, how to make your body as muscular as possible, as ripped with as little body fat, which is not functional, but that's for the sport of bodybuilding, for people being on stage and measuring physique against physique. And to call that or put that in the same category as strength and conditioning is very unfair. And I think that was in the past. People, oh, he's those bodybuilders, I don't want to do that. So, you know, you're not going to see pictures of people doing arm curls or tricep extensions or anything like that. And good luck to people who want to do that. But this is still a book about martial arts
Yeah.
for martial artists. Yeah.
So in that regard, like heavy sword, heavy spear training that you put in this book, what does it develop that's different from going to a gym and lifting heavy weights or medium weights? Why did you put these specific things in the book to do with weapons to start with?
Because they're very specific exercises for internal martial arts people, and specificity is one of the key requirements of any scientific training program that you'd have. And Chinese martial arts people have known that for years and years and years. And we always know that the weapons, of course, were used as weapons back in the day, but then they became ancillary training aids to mimic a movement or to add power. So I'm going to use a heavy broadsword and do a movement like a jun, from Xingyi, like water, drilling element. But by holding a heavy sword, a broadsword, or whatever, I have to engage my whole body to be able to do that, especially if I use the same mechanics that I would use when executing that movement. And that's invaluable. Now, you could go to a gym and you could do heavy deadlifts and heavy squats and build power doing that, and that's not bodybuilding. That's still, but that's a different kind of training that's within the zone of that exercise. And,
Right.
and I'm not saying that shouldn't be done, but there would be a mistake to think that might improve power within your technique. It could certainly build overall body power, but I think weapons training is one of the beautiful kind of keys that we have in martial arts training. And it's not about swinging the heavy broadsword around and thinking about being on horseback and taking down Japanese soldiers and things like that. It's about, right, how can I integrate this into my training, into my whole body, and be able to use that and gain strength. And strength shouldn't be a dirty word. We need to have strength, whether it's internal strength, external strength, whole body strength, strength in the upper body, strength in the lower body, integrated strength in both. Strength is strength, and we should all be trying to get strong.
And you really cover all those things in this book, including internal training without any implements, without anything. You even talk about the Tai Chi Chuan, Panlu Jian.
Yeah.
So I know your training is very balanced. In your teaching, you don't just do conditioning training. You do a lot of the traditional holding the posts, holding the trees, 5 fists, things like that. One question people often ask is, how is, like people say internal martial arts use the body differently? Okay. We know actually that any martial art can be internal or external, depending how you do it. But what is the relationship between the use of muscle and different fibers in the body? Some people say fascia. I don't actually know what that means, fascia, but in Bagua or Xingyi, we say the web of the connective tissue, the jing, right?
Which is also right from a science. Yeah,
what is
from a science.
What is the relationship between muscle and the other connective tissue?
Well, again, like strength.
Without going into too much.
No, I'm not going to make it a science lecture. I need to start getting my textbooks back out as well. I'll blow the dust off them. And you said about Bagua connective tissue. Fascia is wraps of connective tissue around the muscle. Okay, it's part of the muscle stuff, right? So it's muscle is not a dirty word. You can't move without contracting and relaxing muscles. So to say there's no contraction in any muscle, right. But sometimes again, we've been conditioned with internal martial arts to occasionally go down more of a kind of esoteric path, and that there's absolutely nothing there whatsoever, and that's for me that's a dangerous path to go along. So with all of these conditioning methods, what we're talking about is getting deep strength. And I think you and I are probably on the same page, and lots of people. For ease, we can use the term internal martial arts and external martial arts, but hey, it's, you know, it's not a black and white area. I've met many people who don't come from a Tai Chi, Bagua, Xingyi, Yichuan background, Japanese arts, Indonesian arts, who have incredible biomechanics, movement, sophisticated, super high levels of skill, relaxed, effortless, do all of the things that you'd see or want to see in a top class internal practitioner. Yet they've never studied any of those arts, whatsoever. So they have a you know, skill and intuition of their body, things like proprioception and where their arms and their limbs are in motion, and all that kind of stuff. So with all of these methods, whether it's you know, a qigong or a weapons training, or using something like you know, a TRX, you know, which came from service people having a parachute to train outdoors when they want to do physical exercise, to be able to do that, which I've got in the book, and I think it's a fantastic training aid. We're talking about making the body stronger from the inside out, not from a superficial outside perspective. The people talk about tendon power a lot in internal martial arts, and tendon power is specifically trained within isometrics, and also within Jamzhong, and also within circle walking, and also within any compressive movement where there's very slow, deep movement. You're storing this elastic energy, which is loaded into a tendon. Okay, so similar to in the Western world, they call it about plyometrics. So to proceed a vertical jump, you need to squat down, which is loading the muscles, but also loading the tendons, specifically the Achilles, which is a really strong tendon. Now, we talk about being soft in internal martial arts, but actually the reality of tendons is they need to be stiff, they need to be hard, because for ground contact, they act, it's like a spring. So if they soften, they can't absorb. And absorb is another word that's used a lot in internal martial arts. Someone pushes against me, I absorb and then be able to release. That's exactly the same thing. So again, it's different terminology, different names for the same thing. So the past and modern science and how people train in different worlds now, you know, they really do interact. A lot of it's about the same thing.
That's very interesting. Thank you, James, for explaining. And your book is available on lineofintent.com. Can you just remind everybody about your website as well for your teaching?
Yes, so JC Yichuan is my main kind of social media tag, if you like, through Instagram and Facebook. And I also have a website, which is internalmartialscience.com. So, you know, regularly putting out updates on training and seminars, and there's videos and all sorts of bits and pieces up there. So if anyone's, you know, interested in this stuff, you can reach out and contact me, and also, of course, ask any questions or shoot opinions, things like that as well. So it's always really good to talk with other people from different arts and different backgrounds.
Definitely. Thanks so much, James. And we'll have you on the show again, hopefully very soon. And keep well, keep safe. And I look forward to your next book. Now that we, after 2 years in the pipeline, this has finally hit the shelves. So we'll have you back very soon to discuss more interesting topics. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Alex. Appreciate your support.